Hello everybody and welcome to the Chrissy B Show. Now, hearing you have a life-threatening illness can leave people with lots of confusing emotions and can even lead to depression. But there are things that you can do to help not only cope with the news but also still remain positive. So also anything is possible, and today I'm joined by John Walters, who after having a stroke is successfully living his life to the full. And we'll be watching how he's helping young entrepreneurs start up their businesses. And we also have Dr. Rob Hicks in the house, and he'll be telling us what we can do to prevent and identify a stroke, and we'll also be watching a miracle recovery. And also we have Coach Chris Browne joining me to discuss some tips on what to do if you are poorly. But first we have the news today with Helena Shard. Hello, Helena.
Hi, Chrissy.
How are you, my lovely?
Good, very well, thank you.
So even though we're going to speak about quite a difficult topic for many, but we are going to be, keeping it positive and how people can cope in this hard time.
It's amazing. I've been doing lots of research about various different people and the strength that people have when they're going through certain illness. Yeah. And it can be sort of small illness to quite big illness. But I've got some fun stories, if it is possible, which is one that I really, really liked. A young man, not so young anymore, called Bob Champion, who is a jockey, in 1979 unfortunately got testicular cancer and was only given 8 months to live. Oh, wow. But amazingly, he then went on to win the Grand National in 1981. But the reason why it's such a lovely story is that he obviously overcame the cancer, but the horse that he was riding, called Aldeniti, also it was recommended that the horse be put down because it had lots of tendon problems. So they both had overcome, the horse as well as him. Nice. Went to win the Grand National in 1981, and then it was made into a film. So I think it's just such an empowering film. And
have you watched it? Have you seen it?
I've seen snippets, not the whole thing.
I'd like to see that.
But Aldeniti, the actual horse, played himself in it, and John Hurt played Bob Champion. But it's such an inspirational story, and he's still here today, and he contracted it in 1979, was given 8 months to live. So
that's excellent. I mean, it really does have a lot to do with your mind and how you think. And it's obviously understandable, because when you're told that you're not well, it's very scary. I mean, I've not been through it myself, but family members that have been through it, it's really, really scary time.
Absolutely.
But you've just got to try and
push forward and be supportive. Also, if you're the people around, whether you're helping, you've got to just keep that strength. Yeah. But anyway, let's move on to something else. Lance Armstrong, also he's a little bit naughty, I know, but I mean he was basically a road racing cyclist, was seen to have won loads of competitions. I know he's had that taken away, but because he was banned due to drugs and things. But he had won something like 7 great competitions, but overcame again testicular cancer. And is now doing well and pioneering certain things. So various things. I mean, there's so many different illnesses. A lovely story about Brian Sewell, who's an art critic, and he's 81 now. He unfortunately has contracted cancer as well, but he has to write all the time, and because he's quite bored having chemo and various things, he's written a fantastic book. And the book is for children. It's called White Umbrella. About an injured donkey, and he's trying to inspire children because he thinks children have lost inquisitiveness. So they're looking around. He wants them to look around and notice when things are wrong and take in the world rather than just sort of meander through life. And he's writing a book about himself because something like 20 years ago he'd seen a donkey that had been ill and had loads of sores on its body, and he wishes he'd intervened and taken the donkey off. So he wants to, do you know what I mean? He's trying to get children to think about things.
So he wouldn't have been writing that book had he not been ill?
Absolutely. So he's writing, now gone into different books. He started writing something else. He's going through treatment and everything, but it keeps him going. It gives him strength.
That's really good. Actually, that's one of the points we're going to be speaking about later on, about doing something with your time, but we'll go more into that obviously later.
Depression, obviously a huge subject. I won't say too much about it, but just a little bit of a touching the subject. Jim Carrey, I hadn't realised. I mean, he's a great actor, very funny. He was depressed when he was younger, when he was very young.
Wasn't he the one that was homeless as well?
Yeah, he was homeless in a van.
Was he depressed because he was homeless?
No, his mum was ill.
Oh, okay.
And he used to, when he was younger, pull funny faces to try and cheer his mum up. Hence the reason, if you think about him now, funny face.
He's still
But he, I mean, he went to school and he used to finish school and do 8 hours work, really poor. He didn't realise he was depressed. until much later on in life. But he got through it, obviously now famous actor, and did really well.
Good for him.
And there's lots, there's so many different cases on depression,
yeah.
but for another show, I feel. Yeah. Andrew Marr, I think, amazing man, British broadcaster, journalist. And I think the most amazing thing about him now is he's gone on to try and help people who can't afford the amount of physiotherapy he had to overcome his stroke, which is really good, but also is trying to educate people so they know about strokes. Yeah. Because apparently something like 10,000 strokes a year can be avoided if people can pick up on the signs. And I think it's called TIAs, I think, the small things that you can go to, almost like mini strokes. I mean, I'm no expert on that.
Oh, I've got to remember to ask Dr. Hicks about that, the mini strokes.
TIAs.
Yeah.
And
TIAs,
do you know, he had a stroke and he left it 24 hours before he sought help. And had he have gone straight away, he could have been given clot-busting drugs, which obviously helps the blood not, flow away from the brain.
That's the thing with people. Sometimes it's like they know something's wrong, and they're thinking, I don't have time to go to the hospital. I don't have time to go to the doctor now. I don't have time to be waiting in the accident emergency for ages. And it's like it's
madness. He actually knew that something was wrong. He knew he was feeling. At one point, one of his small TIAs, he couldn't actually, because he's very, very good. He's good at giving presentations and everything, and he couldn't talk. He couldn't actually get the words out of his mouth. Instead of seeking help, he lay down and had a rest. And there was just various things like that. Yeah. But having said that, he's done incredibly well. And, good for him.
So he had to have lots of physio though?
Yeah, a huge amount. I think he's had, I've got it here, 3 hours, so 2 hours with a physical trainer, 3 hours with a neurophysiotherapist. I don't know if this is usual. Yeah. And 2 or 3 hours on his own. And this is a week, which is quite a lot. I mean, I've got a friend as well who's had a stroke, so I'm aware of the difference in that my friend, unfortunately, is not as advanced, not as doing well as say Andrew Marr.
Okay.
Yeah, bless, which is a shame. But yeah, I think I said something wrong there. So it's clot-busting drugs. So the whole thing is, with it, I mean, our guests will be able to tell us, with a stroke, it's when you're not getting oxygen to the brain. Is that right?
Is that right? No oxygen to the brain. Yep, he's nodding.
Oh, good.
Don't worry, we're not health experts. We do have the expert coming on though to let us know what.
Michael J. Fox, again, inspirational guy. He unfortunately was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 1991. He's known for, well, for me, I don't know for you, Back to the Future.
Yeah, which I never understood that film, but never mind.
I think it's really good fun. I love it. So he disclosed his condition to the public in 1998, and he came away from acting, I think, in 2000. But he still does voiceovers, still does special roles and appearances, and he does a lot of research into Parkinson's. And I think he's got a honorary doctorate, I think it is, from Sweden. And he's doing incredibly well. That's still going, still giving him strength.
So it's good that he hasn't just sort of stopped and given into it, isn't it? That he's still getting on with things. And
yeah, he's done cameo appearances. I mean, I haven't seen him for so long. Have you seen him?
No, haven't.
He never seemed to age, did he?
No.
He always had that cheeky, chappy look.
It's so true. No matter how old he got, he still looked like he was a teenager, didn't he?
50-something now, I think. So it'd be interesting to see him. Yeah. And there's loads of others as well. I'm not too sure how much time we've got left.
We've got time for one more, Helena. Go on. I'm not cutting you off for once.
No, I know.
It's weird, isn't it?
It's funny because if you're with two people, you obviously don't get as much time, and then you're sort of like fighting to get something. This is something which is completely different. It's not an illness as such, but it can affect people terribly, and this is to do with stuttering. Yeah. Our lovely young actress Emily Blunt, who's done so well, had a terrible stutter when she was younger. I mean, she couldn't talk at all, and really, really bad. And her mother used to take her for therapy and did so much with her. But the only thing that got her over it was becoming an actress, because she was acting a role and she could do it. So it's inspirational.
You say that so much, don't you? Like singers that all of a sudden they just don't stutter when they're singing, and they just
amazing.
Get on with it, don't they?
So that's the answer, maybe. Yeah. If you have a stutter.
Helena, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chrissy.
And we'll see you again next time.
Yeah, good.
Okay. Alrighty, so don't go away, because after the break we'll be joined with John Walters, who's made a near full recovery from having a stroke And we'll also be watching how he is back in work using his skills and knowledge to help young entrepreneurs.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back everyone, and today we're talking all about how to keep positive during an illness. So now I'm joined with Mr. John Waters.
Hello, Chrissy.
Hello, how are you?
I'm really good now.
He's really good now.
After about 2 years hard work.
Yeah, not so long ago you had a stroke, didn't you?
In May 2013.
Can you tell us about what happened?
It was weird. I woke up one morning and I tried to open my eyes, and my vision was blurred, and I kind of stumbled out of bed and looked in the mirror and my face was all down, and I tried to talk to my wife and my voice was slurry as well. So I knew there was an issue, and I fortunately live quite close to a good hospital. So.
How did you feel when you saw that happening to you as soon as you woke up that morning?
Really confused and scared, fearful that I just didn't really... I kind of didn't connect with what was going on, and I almost tried to pretend that nothing had happened because I didn't feel any pain or know anything about it really at all. It was just
just the way you looked and the fact that you couldn't talk.
Just completely.
Did you know at that point? Did you actually realise that it was a stroke happening, or you just thought,
I kind of rejected the idea, but I knew that something wasn't right, and the best thing to do was just call an ambulance and at least go and get myself checked out. So I was kind of resisting the fact that, I mean, it felt like it seemed like it was really traumatic, but on the other hand, there was no pain or you know, there was, it just completely disconnected and scared, and it was just like an unreal experience, really. Okay. So,
but you did the right thing. You went to the hospital.
Yeah, I mean, it just seemed like the obvious thing to do.
And what happened?
I had heard that time is of the essence as well. You know, if you're
that's the thing I wanted to ask you actually, because obviously we see those adverts on TV about what to do.
You know, I certainly remember that message loud and clear.
It does work. These adverts that we see, they do hit the point home, don't they?
And the ambulance service around our area is very good. They had me at St George's because I lived down by Tooting, and I was there in 10 minutes and seen reasonably quickly. So I think times are quite key.
Were you getting worse during that time while you were waiting to be seen? Would you say, or was it the same?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the ambulance journey was just ridiculously quick anyway, and I was just sitting calmly and waiting for somebody to see me at the hospital. Okay. I don't think it deteriorated, but I don't know when it actually occurred. That's the crazy thing, because I don't know if it happened actually during. You know, I could have been asleep for 3 hours and then woken up, or did it happen as I was waking up, or you know, did I wake up because it was happening? I have no idea, but.
So John, talk us through what happened after that. So you got obviously realised it was a stroke.
Well, I spent the day in the hospital just being seen to. It's kind of scanned me and fed me with stuff, and then sent me home towards the end of the day. And then there was a programme of seeing a physiotherapist at the hospital, and I kind of spent a couple of days just sort of coming to terms, I suppose, really, with the fact that something that I had to regard as life-changing had happened, and that I had to think about how I was going to react to that, and how my life needed to change to. And I think the first thing, I think for a day or so, I felt let down by my body and angry with the universe, and
it's a scary place to be, wasn't it? Because if
fed up that I couldn't get on with what the things I usually did get on.
Were you working before then?
Yeah, well, I was working for myself as an IT consultant, running around doing some fairly.
So you got up to just a normal day to go to work that day.
That was the intention.
Working, yeah.
That didn't happen. I think after a while, because I've always been quite a positive character anyway, and I've always been good at challenges and setting myself targets and goals to go for, whether it's in business or in life generally. Actually, I think one of the things I learned as I've sort of gone through life is the rules for life and the rules for business are pretty much the same, actually, which is why I'm really enthusiastic about helping youngsters decide on if they've got some good ideas, you know, how to go forward and create a success with business, because the rules for being successful.
Tell us about a few of those rules then for sicknesses, or how you kept yourself.
Set yourself some challenges and don't sort of go along with the crowd. If you've got some good ideas, go and hang around people that have also got good ideas. And
But in relation to your health, would you say that you were setting yourself sort of mini goals for you to reach, maybe regarding your health and your recovery as well?
Well, the interesting thing was during my university days, I used to play a lot of badminton, and I was quite a sporty person. I kind of let that go.
Right.
As I sort of got more and more involved with my career and started commuting and working long hours and rushing around.
So you let it slip a bit.
Yeah. So I very much became not a sporty person, and for 2 or 3 decades actually I was drinking too much and smoking too much and really neglecting my health and really not taking care.
So what did you do differently after the stroke?
I completely reevaluated my situation and decided to take the advice that I was getting from the physiotherapists and do regular exercise. And I ended up getting very early in the morning and as soon as I could, cycling to somewhere where I could exercise for an hour.
How long did it take for you to get back on your feet after you had the stroke?
Well, my main problem physically was my face was down, and fortunately some friends of the family are really good at acupuncture, so I got my face sorted out by using acupuncture. And I think actually in a stroke situation there are alternative therapies, I think, that complement what was going on with the physiotherapy and the drugs that I was taking. I for instance, Reiki I found very therapeutic, and acupuncture certainly helped with my face, and I just really got stuck into cycling and swimming, and the main problem I had physically was this arm, and so I just sat for quite a long time on an arm cycle machine actually, and got the good arm to drive this arm.
It looks good to me.
Yeah, I know.
Is it fully recovered? Like you fully?
Reasonably, yeah. It's pretty much there. So I did that for an hour each day, every day.
Yeah.
To get this going again.
Okay.
And after a few weeks, no, probably less than that, after about 2 weeks doing this was strong enough for me to actually do some swimming as well.
So you had to be quite disciplined as well, what you were doing, which I suppose is also another business.
But interestingly enough, you know, they say it takes about 30 days to change a habit. And it didn't take me very long to, because I always used to think when I was working, going to the gym, what a chore. I've had a hard day at the office and the last thing I want to do is, you know, I'd rather go and have a couple of pints in the pub or go out for a good meal or whatever. I changed that thought completely and made going to the gym a habit first thing in the morning. And it really didn't take me very long to actually start enjoying that enormously, and it became.
You do after a while, don't you? Because when you start feeling the benefits of it and start feeling good and energetic, you just want to carry on.
It certainly does energise you, whether you've had an illness or not. You know, if I could go back all those years when I didn't take any exercise, I'd certainly make the first port of call each day. You know, at least half an hour in the gym or go for a swim or whatever. But
John, let's take a look at what you're doing today. Let's have a look at this video very quickly.
Hello and welcome to Winners Make Money. My name's John Walters and I'm here to help you build your dream. What do I mean by that? Well, Winners Make Money is a training organisation looking for youngsters to come to boot camps during the summer to work out how they can build their dream by becoming successful entrepreneurs. To do that, we're going to need some sponsorship to get the message out there so that we can let enough young people know that these boot camps are taking place. And we're also going to need mentors who have experience for themselves developing successful businesses that can spend time working with young people during the summer period. All we ask at this stage is that you send us an email to launch@winnersmakemoney.com. Thank you for listening and see you soon.
Well, it's great that you're getting stuck in with something, John. That's amazing. But you're going to stay with us, aren't you? Because after the break, we're going to be joined by Dr. Rob Hicks, and he's going to be giving some practical information and tips on how to prevent and also recognise the characteristics of a stroke. So don't go away.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back, and now it's time to talk to our expert, Dr. Rob Hicks. Hello.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm feeling, after the conversation I should do a bit more exercise.
After all the exercise John's doing, blimey, he was telling us in the green room all the exercise that he does. It's like really shameful for us, isn't it? Yeah. But we won't talk about that, will we?
No, we'll let ourselves off the hook for a little while.
So what did you think about what John was saying earlier?
I think, John's description of what happens when somebody experiences a stroke is very, very clear.
Mm-hmm.
That the campaign that certainly within the NHS in the UK that's running at the moment is the FAST campaign. Yeah. So trying to get people to recognise the signs of a stroke, because a stroke is an emergency. It's a medical emergency. It's like a heart attack. If somebody fears they may be suffering a stroke, they shouldn't wait to see what happens. They should dial 999 and get themselves off to hospital as soon as possible, because the sooner they get treatment, the better the chance of a better recovery. So the FAST idea is F for your face, and John described very well how one side of his face dropped. It might be a person noticed that they can't smile, or it might be that they notice that their eyelid has dropped down on the one side. The A is for arm. So try and raise both arms, and with a stroke you're unlikely to be able to raise both and keep them raised. S is for speech. So people find that they slur their speech or that they can't get the words out. And then T is time. So it comes back to, if you think you've got any of these symptoms, time is of the essence. So get yourself off to hospital as soon as possible. That's actually interesting,
because you mentioned something with your vision as well that you couldn't see very well. Is that quite common?
There are other symptoms as well. So visual problems. Some people can't find that they can't swallow, and some people may become unconscious, or there isn't so much of a weakness, but they may feel numbness or tingling in a limb as well. But it's those key facial and the arm and the speech symptoms that really, if somebody's experiencing those, that pretty much tells us that they're suffering a stroke.
Now, what actually is a stroke in medical terms, and how does it happen? Why does it happen in the first place?
A stroke is when the blood supply to the brain gets cut off. So it's not getting the oxygen, and it's not getting the nutrients that the brain needs, much like any organ in the body needs. So the cells start to die because they're not getting the oxygen and the nutrients. Two reasons for that. One is, less commonly, it's because of a bleed, a hemorrhage. But more commonly, it's the sort of stroke that John had, where the blood vessels are blocked. Or they get narrowed over the process of time, and then they get blocked, and that stops the blood from getting to the brain. I mean, there are times when we call it a brain attack, because it's with the blockage and the obstruction of the blood flow, it's the same as when you have a heart attack. The blood carrying the oxygen and the nutrients can't get to the cells that need it. Why does it happen? For the most part, it's those same risk factors that come with heart attacks. So being overweight, smoking, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and too much alcohol and not enough activity. That they are
guilty of two of those.
pretty much all of those.
Okay.
So you tick those off as you go along, and that's what causes the fatty deposits in the arteries. It narrows the arteries, and that either limits the amount of blood that's through, or once it actually blocks off the blood, you get a stroke.
And it's important to mention, John, were you overweight at all?
Yeah.
That's another thing, because maybe people think it's not going to happen to me because I'm fine, I'm slim, and it's not going to happen. I'm not at risk. But
I think the reality is everybody is at risk, but to different degrees.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have any, all those risk factors. People with high blood pressure, people with high cholesterol, people with diabetes, people with a heart condition called atrial fibrillation, where part of the heart is sort of doing this and not working as efficiently as it should do, they're also at risk of suffering a stroke.
Okay. And what about sort of, obviously John was mentioning about keeping his mind positive. How important do you think that is in someone's recovery?
Well, I think it's important to try and prevent a stroke in the first place, because you've got to be motivated to do the exercise and to follow a healthy diet, not to overdo it with the alcohol, and to give up smoking if you are a smoker. And then with recovery point of view, some of the key things that hit people with stroke is that they feel anxious, they feel depressed, and they feel that their life's been taken away from them. And so you need the positive motivation and the support around you to be able to take on all those changes you may have to make to your lifestyle, to do the exercise, to make sure you attend for your follow-up appointments with the doctors, to take the medicines that invariably people will be prescribed and recommended. So we should never separate the physical from the emotional. These things run in parallel, and they run hand in hand. And one of the things that you have to be aware of is that sometimes in healthcare we focus too much on the physical, or you've got your power back in the arm and you can smile normally again, and we forget that actually behind that somebody may be feeling really, really very frightened. And feeling very, very depressed, but they don't feel that they want to talk about it, because I often hear patients say, well, I feel so grateful that I'm actually back walking again. I didn't want to trouble somebody by saying I actually don't feel very well emotionally.
Did you get support for that as well, John, like for emotionally speaking? Or?
I didn't feel that I needed to. I kind of set a program for myself, because I've kind of come from a place where I've studied personal development.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you're already
for a lot of my life. I've been around people that know how to motivate themselves, and I have shed loads of listening material and video.
So I suppose for someone that hasn't had that sort of background, it must be quite hard. Like I said, it's frightening, and they sort of maybe can't motivate themselves. So it's good to have that counselling available if they need it. I think
it's important to have it available, because a lot of people, men in particular, actually feel angry. And they feel cross with themselves that this has happened, and they've got to change their way of living. They've got to adapt how they do things. And I think that's the key thing is that even somebody who's left with a disability after a stroke, and many people are, the important thing is to encourage them to find new and different ways to do what they used to do, because they may not be able to do the thing in the same way, but they can do it. So we talk about people with arthritis, for example, where we say you may not be able to turn the tap on like that, but you can get a tap with a lever where you can knock it, and you can still get the water out, but you're doing it in a different way. And that's precisely the thing with a stroke. But the key thing is to recognise the signs, not to hesitate to get help and advice, and to stick with the programme. And you mentioned earlier on mini strokes.
Thanks for reminding me.
This is essentially a stroke that happens where there is a full recovery within 24 hours. And to a degree, calling it a mini stroke sometimes isn't helpful, because people don't take it as seriously, but it is as serious, because it's just the warning sign that a major stroke could be just around the corner. So if somebody has a mini stroke, they still
What does that entail, a mini stroke?
It's the same symptoms. So they may find that the speech is slurred, or that one side.
It's just the fact that they got help.
But they get better. But it gets better on its own, often without help.
Okay.
And so but it is the warning sign that a major stroke is.
But should they still, if for example it does get better on its own, they should still go to the hospital?
They should still get help advice, either from their GP or from their hospital.
Okay, that's brilliant. So John, if you'd just like to tell us now what you're doing. We saw the video earlier about helping youngsters. What is it? Can you tell us a bit more about it before we go?
Yeah, my way of life's changed I'm absolutely determined not to go back and work full time, but to value my time by taking care of myself and helping other people by sharing my skills and experience, really. So I've got quite a lot of corporate experience, and I've set a couple of businesses up for myself in the past. So to share that with youngsters, I think there's never been a better time actually for youngsters to grab hold of the opportunity of taking a bright idea and making a successful business from it. It's the right time in the sense of there's great technology around, there's people and communications vehicles out there that we just didn't have back in before. We've got a couple of boot camps being arranged for the summer, and a couple of workshops organised, and we're looking forward to. We've helped a couple of youngsters on an informal basis, and the aim is to scale that up now and get it financed properly and made available through schools.
What does it mean to you to be doing something like this?
Oh, I think it's just great to see people, because I get quite frustrated that there's still a lot that doesn't get taught in schools about sort of modern day life and how to just do simple things like take an idea and, you know, what do I do with this idea? In fact, I was talking to one young lad the other day that had so many ideas, he didn't know how to manage his ideas in the first place.
That's a good problem.
Why are you helping? It's just wonderful to see people go from having a bright idea to realising that they can do something with it, and
I can see how passionate you are about it, John.
Plug them into some people that can help them along the way. And,
definitely. Well, wish you all the best with that.
Thank you very much.
That's great, and you know, all the best with the future and everything that you're doing.
Thank you, Chris.
Rob, thank you so much for the great advice as usual.
My pleasure as always.
Thank you. But we have to go to a break, I'm afraid. But we do have Coach Chris Browne on after the break, and we're going to be talking about how to keep positive if you are diagnosed with an illness.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back. Now, if you are poorly or you have a life-threatening condition, it's quite easy to fall into depression. So what do you do when illness strikes? So I've got Coach Chris Browne with me here.
Hi, Chrissy.
How are you?
I'm very good now, thanks. Very much.
Good. So I've got a few points to discuss with you today about how someone can keep positive. Because obviously it is easy to sort of feel down, to feel scared. There's many confusing emotions. But you yourself had a bit of a battle with this, didn't you, as well?
Yes, I did. And it's funny sitting on the other side and listening to both your guests speak about it. It's right, bringing things back at the same time, because I myself will, to cut a long story short, because it will take a long time to take a rest of the show, right? Had a situation where I had to be rushed into hospital, unexpected. I was driving, I was with my wife at the time, started sweating, started talking to her, and had to just be rushed into hospital. All of a sudden I was there lined up with all this ECG, you know, strapped up and everything, saying, well, next day you're gonna have to have an operation. And this emergency, which I didn't expect. Had slight pain and all that, discomfort. Was going for a while, but I kind of ignored it, the silly thing that you do. Yeah? Anyway, after that, they decided, well, we're going to have to operate on you next day.
Oh, gosh.
Right? Did I want to? No, the thing about it wasn't they just operate, they actually wanted to go inside my heart. Now, for me, there's only two people being in my heart. One is God himself and the other one is my wife, right? Aww. So I can't take another third person inside my heart, this one, right? So what happened is they kept me there and I was having decisions about it. But the stress, mentally, what you go through, even though you're calm on the outside, the many things that run through your mind that think, well, is this going to be a long-term thing? Is this going to be now? Is what's happening? A lot of things are going through your mind. Doesn't matter how knowledgeable we are, whatever, there's a lot of fears that actually run through your head at a time. Okay, the other thing that was, well, not too funny, it's not funny, but it's actually very serious. I was in a ward waiting for the next day, and there was about 3 beds in a row, right? There was a gentleman on that bed, another gentleman on this bed, another bed, myself. First night, because they ended up waiting about 3 days before they did do it in the end. It's so bad. First night, first gentleman, I remember he got up in the middle of the night and he started screaming out and all this sort of thing. And he had this catheter attached to him, but I realised he might have been losing his head. And I myself tried to help him, and there was somebody else in there. And they took him aside, and this thing just let go, which I know was quite painful. And they put him back in the bed, and I myself went to sleep later on, looked for him in the morning, and said to nurse, "Oh, how's the guy down there and everything?" She said, I said, "Oh, did they move him upstairs?" And she said, "No, actually, that he passed at the time."
Oh, God, he died.
Happened? Okay, so that's bed 1,
Yeah.
right? Bed 2 next to
Chris.
me. Yeah, really. Just as I'm saying it, bed 2 next to me, another guy comes in nightfall with his daughter and a bit distressed and all that. And think about this, what I'm going through now.
He didn't die
I'm
as
going to have an
well.
operation in my
Oh,
heart,
you
right?
poor
And this guy, he's next to
my
me, and I looked
gosh.
at him and everything, and his daughter all stressed and like, what's going on? Next day,
Gone.
so, yeah. But the thing about it, let's put it this way. I might not be a good mathematician, but 1, 2, 3, I thought, hang on, we've got to do something here. So this was a time where a lot of thoughts that you really wouldn't take for granted, you start thinking about and valuing things as well.
Yeah.
It's a good thing you learn how to value up to now. I mean, the great thing is I'm fine. Now, I'm great, recovered, everything's okay.
Yeah.
When I went back to that just now, Dr. Hicks mentioned about the anger as a male. I went through that because I've always been quite fit. I've always been training. I used to eat, sleep, drink martial arts before. Everything I was doing was quite fit. So why should this happen all of a sudden?
So that's the other side of things, because John was saying that, he wasn't looking after his health so well.
Yeah.
And you sort of, not that you expect it, because you still don't expect it, but you can kind of think, okay, I could have done more to prevent it. But then if someone then is saying, I've been doing I've been healthy, then you think you sort of feel even worse, don't you?
Exactly, because you think you're sitting next to someone else who would probably abuse it all, and then you think, well, hang on, and that person's going to be fine. Then you've been trained all the time, So a lot of things do go through your mind, but, I think the saving grace for me was 2 main things. It's 1, having a great team around you, team of people around you does make a difference. My faith, because just as John mentioned, he said about Reiki and acupuncture and different, for me, my faith and my belief gave me the strength to actually move on to get to the point where I'm actually today, which was extraordinary recovery within the time you said. Also, my wife as well, because she's got a medical background, she's a medic as well, and the diet as well, because it's about behaviour change. And changing the things you eat, what you eat, how you eat, and the times and all these sort of things helped as well. The sort of things being, I want that, I want that,
and you stopped yourself, well done.
Yeah, and I thought that was going to be very hard. But the thing about it, after a while, your taste buds starts to change, and you realise, well, that's okay, you can have it. I'll have half of that plate instead,
Well
and then I go say, can I have another half after, that sort of thing, But just recovery, the mindset. It's a sort of overcoming mindset that you've got to adopt one way or another. You're either going to fight through, or you're just going to say, is this my lot?
All right. Well, let's go through the points then that we had.
Sure, okay.
All right.
Sure,
I can get a word in edgeways. Thanks, Chris.
Well,
right, I'm going to talk now. Okay, so the first thing is we're going to talk about is obviously educating yourself. So you need to kind of make sure you understand everything there is to know about your condition. So you know what to expect, you know what treatment options are available. So I think it's always worse when you don't know what's going on, you don't know what's happening to you. So if you educate yourself and make sure you know about your treatment, it does kind of at least help you not to be so frightened of things. And also because there are lots of support organisations and charities that can actually help too. So as we spoke earlier, sometimes people feel that they're alone and it's a scary place to be, but there's so much help out there, even if it's just someone that you need to talk to that's there for you. It makes a huge difference.
Being better informed. Once you're informed, you know what's going on, you can actually deal with it.
And number 2, actually, you mentioned already, is about having that support around you. So, tell your family members how you're feeling. Try not to keep it all inside, because they obviously want to help you. And if you kind of clam up and, you don't want to talk about it so much, it can actually make you feel worse. So, take advantage of the people that are around you, those that are close, those that love you, and talk to them about what you're going through. Make sure you get that support from them, because that's really, really important, isn't it?
It's very important, because it starts to implode otherwise if you don't.
Now, the other thing is also make the necessary changes that you need to make. So, for example, you've had diabetes and your diet could be better. Make sure that you start changing. Or if, for example, you've been diagnosed with lung cancer, so it's an idea to maybe stop smoking. And actually, I've seen this where when I was in hospital, my dad was ill, and there was a man in there that was really seriously ill, and he kept asking for cigarettes, even though that's what caused. All right, I know in his head is probably, it's too late anyway now, I might as well just smoke away and enjoy myself. But there are things that you can already start to do to improve your health or make your recovery better, or even just to feel better about it.
It's funny we said like he's he was there recovering, but still smoking. While I was in hospital, it was exactly the same thing, the guy opposite me. And I just couldn't work that out personally myself. But then, I'm not being judgmental about it. I mean, that's somebody's addiction. That's what they do. So there's something else that has to be dealt with as well at the same time.
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
very hard. It's very hard in that situation. More than else, yeah.
And obviously what we spoke about already is try to keep your mind positive. So maybe you've even been told that there's no cure for your condition, that you have to live with it the rest of your life. But miracles happen. They do. And I think if you keep your mind positive and if you keep sort of thinking to yourself, look, I can walk again, for example, I can do so. Actually, we had a video, but we don't have time to show it, of a guy that basically was told, he had an accident and he was told that he wouldn't walk again. And the next day he already started moving. And then within a few days he was walking. So sometimes, you may be told certain things, and that's what the doctors see, and it's not their fault at times. They can't see certain things, they can't see certain things into the future, but there is always a chance that you can recover. And I strongly believe in that. And I've seen many people recover from things that were told that they wouldn't be able to recover from. And I think it's really important to keep that positivity.
Positive. We was just talking in the green room a while ago, we were saying that the whole idea of humour as well. Humour actually helps you recover as well, your body. It speeds up the process. So that's something that keeps it positive as well.
Yeah. I mean, it was something I remember actually when my dad was ill, and I was trying to keep him positive, but he was very, very negative. And as much, I was really trying, Dad, stop saying you're going to die, stop saying you're going to die. And he kept saying it. And I said, if you keep saying it, it's not going to help you. So just say you're going to live instead. Right. But he just refused to do it. And I remember Rob telling me, actually, look, it's his choice. You can't sort of force your family member, whoever's going through something, to believe in something that maybe they don't. Even though I really tried until the last second, actually even after he was gone, I was still trying. But I'll go into that another day. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you can't sort of force that on someone. But if you're the person that's ill, try and keep positive, because it really can help. It can make a difference.
It does make a difference. And on top of that as well, it's your space, your environment as well. Yeah. Did you know, sometimes if you change things around in your environment, keep it clean, change things all the time, it actually lifts you as well. So that makes a difference as well. But then I might say that and somebody might be bedridden. Hey, it might mean changing the sheets all the time, different way each day, getting ready,
All right, just got to whiz for the last point. Do something with your time. So if maybe you're unable to do what you were doing before, for example, before you got ill, do something else. There's some people that raise money for charity, or they develop their relationships with their family. They get closer with their family. Maybe you can do things you've always wanted to do. So don't just sort of sit around and be ill as such. Obviously, I know this depends on how serious your condition is, but there's always something that you can do, rather than just sort of just give into it and say, okay, now I'm sick, I can't do anything with my life anymore. There's always something that you can do.
And just to add to that as well, because you've got to remember that it's your body that's sick and not your mind. Yeah. So you've got to keep that mind on top of that.
That's very true. Okay, so we have reached the end of the show, Chris. Thank you so much
for
your input. So it was I think it's a really important thing to talk about. But just as a final thing, don't wait to get sick to look after your health. We all know that we're supposed to eat healthily and exercise, so make sure you do that, and also get your rest too. And another thing, don't wait to have something happen to you before you start doing the things that you've always wanted to do. Sometimes people do wait till they're ill or something's happened, and then they start thinking, I'm going to do that thing that I've always wanted to do, or I'm going to jump out of a plane. You don't have to wait to do these things. Do them now, because to be honest, none of us know when we're going to go. We've all got an expiry date at the end of the day. We're not going to be here forever. So let's live our dreams now and do as much as we can right now. All right, guys, so time to go, and I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye. Yeah, the cameras are pointing that way. Did we do something wrong? Okay.
Chrissy, what's going on?
It's your fault, you're in the way. I'm joking, sweetie. And that...
This plant is in the way. Can you guys walk around this way?
Okay, so thanks very much. Let's go for the styling now. Okay, wait.
Come on.
Wait. Why are you in such a hurry? Just like this, trying to get
I'm the only professional in this group.
Three, 2, 1. Okay, thanks very much. And now we're going to walk over to the styling.
All right.